Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 308 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm not really asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. So, what's funny is sometimes when there's a result that doesn't happen in the way that a lot of people want it to happen, you look for anything to justify why it didn't happen outside of the fact that it just didn't happen. You see, if you don't win the lottery, you'll say that it was rigged. Or a lot of people say the reason why X didn't happen is because of Y, instead of the fact that it just didn't happen. You see, there were a lot of factors going into this AFC championship that a lot of people, well, let me say this. There was a lot of factors that went into the outcome of the AFC championship that a lot of people are having a hard time accepting. Let me first say congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the AFC championship and advancing to the Super Bowl. You see, people want to look at moments, right? And think to themselves, no, that is the reason why X happened, or that is the reason why Y happened. I'm beating around the bush at this point. A lot of people are saying that the refs were the biggest reason why the Kansas City Chiefs lost. Won. We know the play at the end, the roughing the passer, that, of course, the homie from Cincinnati, I think it's I forgot his name, but homie from the Cincinnati Bengals clearly pushed Patrick Mahomes while he was out of bounds, which caused a 15-yard penalty, which then went into a 45-yard kick, a 43-yard kick, and boom, Kansas City Chiefs win the game. People want to look at the refs and look at that moment and say, you see, that's why the Kansas City Chiefs won. Not the fact that Sky Moore damn near, the play before that, damn near ran a 50-yard punt return. Not the fact of the real MVP of the game, in my opinion, Chris Jones, had 2 or 3 sacks on Joe Burrow and was constantly in Joe Burrow's face. Not the fact of, for some reason, the Cincinnati Bengals knew that Patrick Mahomes was pretty much on one leg the entire time. We know about the high ankle sprain. Yet and still, they were unable to get to Patrick Mahomes. I think they sacked him maybe once or twice. And in that, their game plan was stop Travis Kelce at all time. Not let's try to get to the quarterback. Let's make Patrick Mahomes work on that leg. Or the fact of Marquez Valdes-Scantling had the game of his life. Shouts out to you, Eli Apple. Valdes-Scantling had the game of his life. I think he finished like 116 yards or something, or 119 yards. You see, going into the AFC Championship, I thought that was going to be the best game. I thought that you had 2 high-powered offenses, 2 defenses that were playing at the right time, and the reason why I picked the reason why I picked Kansas City Chiefs is because you have to slay the dragon before you can advance. And while they did it a year before, we know who Patrick Mahomes is. We know who the Kansas City Chiefs are. You see, Cincinnati did a lot of talking going into the game. Rightfully so. I understand you're at an all-time high. This is exactly what happened last year. You just beat the team that a lot of people thought were Super Bowl bound, which was the Buffalo Bills. You have Joe Burrow, who kind of has emerged as the second best quarterback in the league. I get it. But you see how, and I'm not saying that this is the reason why they won, of course, but you see how eerily quiet the Cincinnati or the Kansas City Chiefs were majority of the week before. I mean, you heard the mayor of Cincinnati say something. Again, you're talking to a team that has hosted the AFC Championship for 5 straight years. Man, shouts out to Patrick Mahomes, man. Think about this. On one leg, Patrick Mahomes went 29 for 43, 326 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And this is when the running game gave them absolutely nothing. Isaiah Prosecco had 10 carries for 26 yards. Patrick Mahomes had 8 yards. McCole Harmon, 7 yards. Jerick McKinnon had 1 yard. Meaning most of this was, we getting the ball out. Travis Kelce had 78 yards and a touchdown. Valdez-Scantling, 6 receptions for 116 yards. You have to put some respect on Patrick Mahomes' name. That's a bad man right there. Stephen A. Smith said that is a bad man right there. The Kansas City Chiefs, while yes, Patrick Mahomes was, he was doing what he did. This, to me, the MVP of the game was Chris Jones. While yes, he only had 2 sacks, which, by the way, was his first 2 sacks of his career in the postseason. The game plan, the defense was relentless. Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and the rookie. Do you realize that Snead went out? So there was a rookie playing. There was rookies playing all over the place. At one point, 3 of Patrick Mahomes' top receivers were out, meaning that you had to play rookies. Everyone came to, I think this is more of a Cincinnati win. A Kansas City win than a Cincinnati loss. Because don't get me wrong, yes, they didn't have their best game. Joe Burrow threw 2 interceptions. 1 was horrible. But Jamar Chase was still getting, Jamar Chase, give me a second. Jamar Chase went, let me see. Jamar Chase, 6 receptions for 75 yards. T. Higgins, 6 receptions for 83 yards. Yeah, Tyler Boyd went out, but he still had 2 receptions for 40 yards. You saw one team that it kind of reminds me now, of course, the NBA Finals and the AFC Championship's different, but it kind of reminds me of the Golden State Warriors last year. Top to bottom, you can say that the Boston Celtics was the better team, and they probably were. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Grant Williams. Like, on paper, the Boston Celtics was the team was the better team. But you know what you never sensed from Golden State, even when they were down 2-1? You never sensed you never sensed panic ever. Hell, they blew game 1. You never sensed panic. For the Chiefs, you never sensed panic. When Joe Burrow and them had to turn the ball over and Cincinnati couldn't capitalize. And the Chiefs couldn't capitalize. Or when Patrick Mahomes just fumbled the ball. Or when T. Higgins had one of the nastiest mosses I've seen in a while on 2 people. Or when Jamar Chase had one of the nastiest mosses I've seen on 2 people. You never saw the Chiefs panic. And that's what happens when you have a superior talent. And don't get me wrong. On paper, the Cincinnati Bengals is a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs, especially the Kansas City Chiefs that we saw on Sunday. I mean, think about it. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Hayden Hurst, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd when he was playing. You have some really talented people on the defense, Hubbard, Bates. But when you have a player as supremely talented as Patrick Mahomes, and that's no slight on Joe Burrow, but when you have a player as supremely talented as Patrick Mahomes, i.e. going back to the NBA Finals analogy, when you have a player as supremely talented as Steph Curry, there is a sense of we're going to be all right. Even if you lose, we're going to be all right. Now, yes, the Cincinnati Bengals won a year ago, but it took overtime, and it took, what it took. I mean, again, the Kansas City Chiefs were up like 17 points and lost. In fact, yes, this was Patrick Mahomes' first win against the Chiefs or against Joe Burrow. However, every single game Joe Burrow the Chiefs were up going into the fourth. Again, we're talking about a Kansas City Chiefs team that has hosted the AFC Championship, not just a game, the AFC Championship for 5 straight years. So that means they know what they're doing. Shouts out to Andy Reid. Shouts out to Travis Kelce. Again, the Patrick Mahomes was incredible, but to me, the player of the game was Chris Jones. And the Kansas City Chiefs, and I will say this because you're going to ask, why Chris Jones? Why Chris Jones? One of the biggest question marks going into the game was, are the Cincinnati Bengals going to capitalize on the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs? Even with Snead, their secondary has been their weak point this entire year. And while, yes, you look at 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, like, yes, the pressure that Chris Jones continuously put on Joe Burrow was felt to the point where Joe Burrow would have to slide, and then you have Frank Clark coming out of nowhere. And actually, the pressure that Chris Jones and Frank Clark put on Joe Burrow was one of the biggest reasons why he intercepted why they were able to get 2 interceptions. I think we've seen Joe Burrow good enough to go toe to toe, which it was 20-23, go toe to toe with anybody. But the one thing that the Kansas City Chiefs did well that the Buffalo Bills did not was create pressure on Joe Burrow. We understand. We also know that 2 or 3 of Cincinnati Bengals starting centers or starting linemen were not playing. And Chris Jones was able to capitalize on that. Again, Patrick Mahomes was great. He was able to play on one leg pretty much, and you saw it too. And I was watching this with a couple people, and I kept saying, "Yo, they have to extend the lead. They have to extend the lead going into the fourth." Because I thought, now apparently what they're saying is Patrick Mahomes was not shot up. I thought Patrick Mahomes was shot up. And I'm not an expert on, painkillers or pain shots, whatever. But one thing that I do know, one thing that I've heard constantly from basketball players, from football players is you get shot up before the game. By the fourth quarter, you feel everything. Like that shot is not there anymore because you still have to go through halftime and everything. So for some reason you can't shoot it up twice. Because I was thinking, why don't you shoot up before the game and halftime? No, you have to shoot up once for some reason. Maybe it's a health thing. But I kept saying, yo, extend the lead. You have to extend the lead because you don't want. And you even saw in the fourth quarter that limp that Patrick Mahomes had was more prevalent than ever. Because the adrenaline, everything was starting to weigh down. Like, okay, I'm feeling this. So Patrick Mahomes was great, man. Patrick Mahomes was great. Chris Jones was great. The Kansas City Chiefs were great. And also, it wasn't the refs that cost Cincinnati Bengals this game. What it was is when you're playing someone supremely talented, when you're playing a team as supremely talented as the Kansas City Chiefs, slight errors get magnified to levels that we can't, like, slight errors, man. The fact of, holding calls. I don't know how many times it was a big stop and then Cincinnati Bengals had a holding call. Or the two interceptions from Joe Burrow. Or Tyler Boyd going out. Or, of course, the last second roughing the passer. You see, when you're playing a team that's okay, you can overcome those mistakes because those mistakes aren't as big in the grand scheme of things because you're not playing a team that is supremely talented. If you were playing just for this year or something, if you were playing like the Houston Texans, and it wasn't the AFC Championship, the Cincinnati Bengals can still get away and probably would have won with all those mistakes. But when you're playing a team as supremely talented as the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're not hurting themselves, those little errors get magnified to the point where an offside. For instance, you remember a couple years ago, I think it was the AFC Championship. Tom Brady was there, and Tom Brady was playing on the Patriots, and Dee Ford, the Cincinnati Bengals played an incredible game and was about to win, but Dee Ford lined up offsides, and because Dee Ford lined up offsides, they lost. I think that play, what's his name? Tom Brady threw an interception, but Dee Ford lining up offsides negated that. Little things. So I'm not going to blame it on just, homie that, Osei that pushed Patrick Mahomes. That was big, yes. And I think that was that sealed the game. But I don't think that's the reason why they lost. The reason why they lost is the little mistakes blew up or little mistakes got magnified to big mistakes because almost every mistake, Kansas City Chiefs had an answer. And to go back to the NBA Finals analogy, when you have Jason Tatum turning the ball over as much as he did and Golden State capitalizing every single time. Again, if you were playing the Pistons, if you were playing the Cavaliers, if you were playing the Wizards, those turnovers don't hurt as much as they would playing the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. So shouts out to the Kansas City Chiefs for making it back to the Super Bowl. I will say this though. Shouts out to my social media manager. She put a poll out. And I've been thinking about this poll for a minute now. She put a poll like in there, and I think Shannon Sharp asked Chad Ochocinco or Chad Johnson this question. Who would you want in your prime? If you're an incredible wide receiver, who would you want in your prime? Would you want, and you can play like one season with them in their prime or 10 seasons. You have Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Peyton Manning. Shouts out to social media. Shouts out to Shannon Sharp for asking that question on Club Shay Shay, which is an incredible platform. And I've been wrestling with three people. And there's no, I've been wrestling actually in the minute. I've been wrestling with that question, and I'm gonna answer that here on this thing. To answer that question, you have to to answer that. This is my thinking. What is important to you? You see, because you can't go wrong. I mean, Peyton Manning will go down as arguably one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks of all time. All of these quarterbacks, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Manning, all will go down as arguably some of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. Of course, Tom Brady being the GOAT pretty much. But, and we'll talk about this a little later in basketball about the era that we're in. People forget. I understand that a lot of people don't like Aaron Rodgers. Maybe personality-wise, I get it. But people forget how good Aaron Rodgers was. Or he still is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just won back-to-back MVPs. His fourth, by the way. Patrick Mahomes is incredible. Peyton Manning is incredible. All these people have Super Bowls. Tom Brady is the GOAT. And I put Aaron Rodgers in my poll, but I'm starting to kind of lean towards Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is better than anyone in their prime. I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes will go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. What I'm saying is I think Patrick Mahomes has an innate ability to make. I mean, just look at the AFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes and Marquez Valdez-Scantling has struggled to connect this entire year, the entire season, to the point where a lot of people are saying, "You see, that's exactly why that's exactly why the Green Bay Packers let that man go." Valdez-Scantling had the game of his life. So I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes. So shouts out to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the AFC Championship and advancing to the Super Bowl. And also shouts out to Cincinnati. I was drastically wrong about Cincinnati this year. I even put a video out saying I think Cincinnati probably won't even make the playoffs. I am saying I think it's going to get interesting this next few years when, it's time to pay Joe Burrow, when it's time to pay Jamar Chase, when it's time to pay T. Higgins. I think it's going to be interesting who stays, who goes. If all of them stay, it's going to get very expensive. And we know kind of Cincinnati for being on the cheaper side of a franchise. But the Cincinnati Bengals are supremely talented. And if they just continue to stay healthy and get their offensive line right, they will be there for years and years to come. Again, I know I said that the next great quarterback battle was Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I was wrong about that. I think it's now going to be Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and that doesn't take away from how great Josh Allen is. It doesn't take away from how great quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson or we'll talk about Jalen Hurts in a second, or Justin Fields. Justin Fields, or how good Justin Herbert is. But I think the next great, like the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or some of the greatest quarterback battles you've ever seen. I think the next one will be Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. So shouts out to the Kansas City Chiefs. Shouts out to the Cincinnati Bengals. So let's move forward. This is going to sound like hate when I talk about the NFC Championship, and trust me, it's not. It's not lost on me that the Eagles have looked like the best team this entire year. Top to bottom, they have looked like the best team all year. And it's fitting that the Philadelphia Eagles, are now representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I also understand that they won. They won the NFC Championship. So winning negates a lot of things. You know, winning, you're able to quiet a lot of things down because you won. It's like, what are you going to tell me? We won. But winning kind of clouds the journey of the game to get to that win. You see, you look at 31-7. And when I say it's going to sound like hate, here it is. You see 31-7, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Let me also start by saying, if Brock Purdy played the entire game, I still think the Philadelphia Eagles would have won. If Brock Purdy never got hurt, where he tore his UCL, if he never got hurt, I still think the Philadelphia Eagles would have won. Do I think they would have won or they would have lost 31-7? No. But I do think that it would have looked different. I mean, Josh Johnson had to play. He got hurt. Then Christian McCaffrey had to play quarterback. Now, people are going to say, well, Jay, they were going against the 49ers defense. The 49ers defense looked incredible. What happened to the 49ers defense all year? Bro, the 49ers defense had to play like 80% of the game. There was this constant 3 and outs. And I don't care how great of a defense you are. You're going to get tired. And as you saw the beginning of the game, they were explosive. Nick Bosa running around everywhere. Fred Warner running around everywhere. Ward stopped. Like, they were explosive. But when you keep having to go in and 3 and outs, it weighs you down. Now let me also give credit where credit is due. The things that I said last episode were the Eagles' strength was their strengths. They ran the ball like crazy, and their schemes that Nick Sirianni drew up was incredible. They were able to run the ball. Their offensive line is the best offensive line in football. They have 2 bona fide Hall of Famers on the offensive line with Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce. The defense, Hassan Reddick was incredible. Hassan Reddick was probably the MVP was probably the MVP for the Eagles in the AFC or the NFC Championship. Fletcher Cox was big. The Eagles have been the best team all around this entire year, and they played like it. But this is why I said it's going to sound like hate. I'm going to wait until, what is it, the 11th, I think, that Saturday before to give my predictions. But Jalen Hurts did not look good at all as far as throwing the ball. I don't know if he's injured still. I don't know what it is, but he did not look good throwing the ball at all. The Eagles won because the the 49ers got tired, and they just executed to perfection the run game and the run pass option. And when he had to throw the ball, he had to. I mean, I think if that Devontae Smith catch was reviewed and deemed that it wasn't a catch, I think things could have looked differently because momentum was just there. But and again, the Philadelphia Eagles were the best team. And even if Brock Purdy played the entire game, I think they would have still lost, the 49ers. So I'm not gonna. I don't. This game wasn't much to talk about, man. The Eagles did what the Eagles were supposed to do, and I'm not saying no. And that's no offense to the the San Francisco 49ers. But again, when you're playing, when the defense is out there 80% of the time, it's like 80% of the entire game. That's crazy. But the Eagles, man, when you have and let me talk about Jalen Hurts for a second. Even though he did look bad. First of all, shouts out to both Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes for being the first two African American quarterbacks to face off in the Super Bowl. Shouts out to them, man. Now, no, they're not the first black quarterbacks, but they're the first time two black quarterbacks have faced off. Shouts out, and in February, chef's kiss. But I will say this about Jalen Hurts. I was one of those doubters. The doubters that are getting destroyed on social media right now. I was one of those doubters. You see, things have happened that has shaped my opinion of Jalen Hurts. Now, what people don't allow on social media, I realize, is they don't allow people to change their opinion and change their mind. I've changed my opinion on Jalen Hurts, but there have been things that have helped me grow my opinion at first. And I'll say this. I remember Jalen Hurts getting benched in the national championship for Tua. I remember Jalen Hurts losing his job the next year to Tua, so he transferred to Oklahoma. I remember Jalen Hurts being incredible at Oklahoma, but not finishing, losing. I remember Jalen Hurts coming into the league and not really being able to throw the ball consistently. I remember Jalen Hurts making it to the playoffs, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers said, "Yo, we are going to make Jalen Hurts throw the ball on us." And the Eagles looked horrible. I remember that, Jalen Hurts. Now, I will say, I have changed my opinion. Jalen Hurts is an incredible quarterback. And he has improved. I will say that. He has improved. Because, look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen has improved. And I do think that it's something to be said when you pair him with a great coach in Nick Sirianni, which is another person I was wrong about, and with a top wide receiver. He has two of them. Devontae Smith would be a top wide receiver on a lot of people's teams. A.J. Brown is a top wide receiver. Now, yes, that doesn't negate the fact that I think he looked bad against the 49ers, especially passing the ball. Now, if we talk about his running ability, of course. Look, the entire game, he pat 15 for 25 for 121 yards passing. Now, rushing. 11 rushes, 11 carries for 39 yards. Miles Sanders had 11 carries for 42 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 14 carries for 48 yards. Boston Scott, 6 carries for 21 yards. Should Gardner Minshew got in the game? Oh, he did. Look at that. Jalen Hurts had one rushing touch. He did not have a passing touchdown. But they win. They win. But they won. So shouts out to the Philadelphia Eagles for making it to make it to the Super Bowl. Last time they were in the Super Bowl was 2017, and we know how that turned out. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm going to hold off my opinion. And the 49ers are in a good position. You have some decisions to make about the quarterback position. But you're hearing a lot of rumblings that's, there's this guy that's in Tampa Bay that might decide to come to the 49ers. At that point, I don't care who Trey Lance is. I don't care who Brock Purdy is. I don't care who Jimmy G. Jimmy G's gone. I know. They've been trying to get rid of Jimmy G for a second. I'm not saying Jimmy G sucks, but they've been trying to get rid of Jimmy G for a good little minute. He gone. It's just what he do now with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. But those are good questions to have, especially when you have a great coach like Kyle Shanahan. Oh, and we'll talk about D'Amico Ryan in a second, but D'Amico Ryan will not be there. So, shouts out to the Cincinnati Bengals. No, shouts out to Kansas City Chiefs. Shouts out to the Philadelphia Eagles for making it to Super Bowl 57. Let's move forward. So it looks like the Saints and Broncos are finalizing a deal to bring Sean Payton to the Broncos to be their head coach. Trust me, I did not know that you could trade for coaches. I was very much unaware of that until this whole process. Because I don't think you're able to trade for coaches like that in the NBA, but I could also be wrong. When you're going to another organization or new organization, there's some things that have to be mainstays for you, and there's some things that attract you. When you're good, when you're good and you come from a good organization, a good situation, the Saints are in cap hell, but the Saints have been successful for a minute now. Well, actually, since Sean Payton was there and Drew Brees. Because I remember they were called the Aints for a good minute. But we know how good Sean Payton is as a coach. So when you're that good and you left on your own terms, remember, he retired. There are things that you need. And when you're successful, you know how to succeed. Why do you think a player like LeBron James never wants to go to Minnesota? Or why do you think a player like Kevin Durant never wants to go to Detroit? You know what it takes to win when you're a great player. You know what it takes to win when you're a great coach. You see, Russell Wilson right now is like that kid in school that you don't want to touch. Russell Wilson, people say that he's trash at this point. Washed up. Terrible. And look, he had a bad season. So you ask yourself, what drew Sean Payton to the Broncos? And it's easy. Control. When you're getting someone as high profile as Sean Payton, and I don't mean high profile as like a diva. I mean high profile as, if he's on your team, you're getting wins. You want to give him control because he understands what he's doing. Like, let me do what I got to do. I know how to win. I think Sean Payton is the perfect person for not only the Broncos, but for Russell Wilson. And I think it's going to have to take some soul searching from Russell Wilson. You see, years like what Russell Wilson just went through is either going to do one or two things. Is it going to make you change or make you stay the same? And if you stay the same, I promise you, you will not be a Bronco by next year. Russell Wilson was so bad this year that if he repeats it, they don't care how much dead cat money they have to swallow. He's gone. You see the problem. See, now that you hear a lot of stories about Russell Wilson with his days in Seattle. But what's something that was drastically different from Seattle and Denver last year? They were winning. So you can allow that to happen because you're winning, and you were great. Now that you're losing, especially when there's high expectations, and you have a good team around you. Yes, there was a lot of injuries on the offensive side, but you have a good team around you. All those special treatments is like, why are you getting special treatment? We're 4-11, we're 4-16, or we're 14. You see, I think Sean Payton is the perfect person to right the shit for Russell Wilson, because you need someone. You need someone that you have to trust can do what he has to do. And I think Sean Payton is the perfect person for it. I think Sean Payton will be great. So, shouts out to the Broncos for getting the big fish, which was Sean Payton. Also, and let's move forward from this, DeMeco Ryans accepts a 6-year offer or 6-year job for the Houston Texans. Now, you know how I feel about the Houston Texans and their treatment of African-American coaches. One thing that I did like was he has 6 years. I did like that. And I also like the fact that DeMeco Ryans got the job. I don't like that it was the Houston Texans, but he got the job. It's hard for African-Americans to get a head coaching job. We're still waiting for Eric Bieniemy to get a job. We're still waiting for a myriad of people. Hell, Brian Flores to get a job again as a head coach. So I'm happy for DeMeco Ryans, man, but I'm cautiously happy. I'm cautiously anticipating because one thing that I don't like that African American, you know what I don't like? It was a Vic Fangio. I think he's the highest paid. Like, he gets fired, then he just hops over, and I think he's the highest paid assistant now, and he's with the Dolphins. Or Kellen Moore, we'll talk about in a second, parts ways with he got fired from the Cowboys, and now where is he at? He's with the Chargers. I don't like the fact of even in the offensive head coach or the assistant head coach or assistant coaches, how you're able to lose your job, and you deserve to lose your job, but you just bounce right back and get another one. Hell, Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator. Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator for the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett. You remember what Nathaniel Hackett looked like last time we saw him? That's another argument for another day. Congratulations to DeMeco Ryans. Again, I don't like that it's the Texans, but he did play for the Texans, so there is some I guess sweat equity there, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's well deserved. I hope that the Houston Texans are patient. And I'm not saying patient with him, because I think he's going to be great day one, but this is not a championship. This isn't a playoff roster right now. Hell, I don't even think this is a 9-win team yet. So which is why I do like that they gave him 6 years. Let him do what he has to do and get out of his way. Shouts out to DeMeco Ryans. Now, Kellen Moore. You know what new can do? You know what a new environment, a new space, a new anything can do? It can highlight areas that may not have been able to be highlighted on the old. You see, I think that Kellen Moore upgraded from Dak Prescott to Justin Herbert. But one thing that we've said about the Cowboys offense is that it's not creative, that it's stale, that it continues to decrease towards the end of the season. And with new, i.e. with Justin Herbert, you're going to see, was that mainly Kellen Moore or was that Dak Prescott? Because now you have, look at the weapons that you have. You have Justin Herbert. You have Austin Eckler. You have Mike Williams. You have Keenan Allen. If you can't do something with that or your offense looks stale with that, then we know that it's Kellen Moore. I think it's Kellen Moore. I think it's Kellen. But hey, shouts out to him for getting a job after Damn, I keep going back to the last statement. I don't want to argue about this, but how the hell can Kellen Moore get a job? And don't get me wrong, I think that he did not deserve to be fired. That's a lie. I think he wasn't good. But how the hell does Kellen Moore get fired and like the next day gets a job as the offensive coordinator for the Chargers? Yet Brian Leftwich, who won a Super Bowl, is still jobless. Vic Fangio got a job before recently Super Bowl winning Brian Leftwich. And quiet as it's kept, I think it was more Kellen Moore offense than Dak Prescott just being bad. And it was more Tom Brady being terrible than it was Brian Leftwich. Because this is the same calls that won them a Super Bowl Tom Brady could not do this year and got Brian Leftwich fired. Yet and still, he didn't have a job. Brian Flores was an exceptional head coach. And I know he sued the league or whatever, but he still can't get a head coaching job. Eric Bieniemy, I just talked about the Kansas City Chiefs going to their 5th straight AFC championship, and he cannot get a head coaching job. I hope Kellen Moore is very successful. But what's unfortunate is even if he's not, he's going to get another opportunity because we know how that goes. Let's move forward. Perception matters. One thing that a league cares a lot about is their perception. It goes back to the NFL when Calvin Ridley, the NFL comes down harder on gambling than it does domestic violence because of perception. The perception is if someone's gambling, they're cheating or not cheating. Yeah, they're cheating. They're cheating the game for financial gain, so that hurts the integrity of the sport. Why do you think that they got rid of the temporary refs for the NFL quickly? Because we know what happened with the Seahawks in Green Bay. And that was a horrible look. And now the integrity of the game is being questioned. Back to the NBA. Homie, the ref that Tim Donaghy, I think his name. The ref that was admitted to cheating that's why he's banned for life, because the integrity of the game. The NBA has a ref problem right now. And it's hurting the integrity of the game. Now, yes, I saw the play with LeBron James and against the Celtics, and I do think that play cost them the game. And I also think, yes, LeBron James may have went a tad bit overboard with his disdain for the no call. But this is multiple times now. Multiple games, multiple situations that the refs have clearly got it wrong. I mean, we've seen Golden State. Some, they've been affected. No calls. We've seen the Lakers clearly. We've seen Damian Lillard get no calls and clearly fouled. The league has a problem right now. And do I think it's going to get rectified? Yes. And I don't think it's just a general problem. But when you think about the refs, they have been costing games. And you do not want to look at the league and think to themselves, you don't want the integrity of the league to be to continue to go down, or not continue to go down because the refs. And that's what's happening. Now you're having people question everything about the refs because, you see when the ref missed this call. So they're not focused on the game. They're focused on the mistakes that the refs are doing. And that's that press release at the refs and the NBA. It was sleepless nights getting it wrong. Well, get it right, bro. If I'm paid to do a job, like if I'm paid to be a crosswalk guard, and a kid gets hit by a car, do you think that I've had sleepless nights because you think they want to hear me say, hey, I had sleepless nights because, I didn't pay attention to the road. Like, no. Do your job, bro. The NBA needs to really seriously, I'm not saying fire all the rest, I'm saying really seriously take this ref thing seriously, because the last thing you want with no league wants the integrity of the league to be tarnished, especially when you can do something about it. And the NBA can do something about it. So moving forward, we talk about eras a lot, and each era is defined by something. Each era is defined by the play of something. Of course, the Jordan era, that was more of the right, more of the fouls, no layups, the bad boy Pistons, You had the 2000s, that was more of mid-range and the big man, when you had Shaq and you had, Dwight Howard and stuff like that. This is the scoring era. I mean, think about it. Just this year, there have been 19 50-point games. 19. I can bet you can go back to a one season of Jordan, and I don't think there was 19. And if there was 19, Jordan probably had 17 of them. This is the scoring era. You're seeing people, and look, we've never seen someone like Luka. I'm not saying he's the greatest, but we've never seen someone like Luka. We've never seen someone like Giannis. We've never seen someone like Steph. Hell, we've never seen someone like Damian Lillard. We've never seen someone like KD. We've never seen someone like Kyrie. We've never seen someone like LeBron James. We've never seen someone like Anthony Davis. We've never seen someone like Nikola Jokic. We've never seen someone like Joel Embiid. We've never seen someone like James Harden. This is the scoring era. And people that are shocked, like, you're shocked that Devin Booker put up 50? Devin Booker? Jason Tatum? Donovan Mitchell put up 71? This is the league. And I'm not just, defenses aren't the same. Defenses are a little weaker, but you also have, I don't care how weak the defense is, you have to be a supreme talent to be in to drop 50. You know how tough it is to score 50 points? I wouldn't know, because I've never scored 50 points I've never scored 50 points in my life in a game. Not a pickup, not not a college game, not a high school game, not an intramurals game, nothing. So I wouldn't know. But this is the scoring generation. And it shows. And that's just the way of the league. Man, hell, Klay Thompson dropped 50 this year. That's the way of the league, man. That's the way of the league. Hell, Sadiq Bey has a 50-pointer. And no offense to him, Sadiq Bey has a 50-pointer. 50-point game. Not this year. I think last year. And even it's not 50, man. You know how many 40-pointers, 40-point games? I mean, Anthony Edwards, Jordan Poole. Hell, James Wiseman had a 30 ball. Come on, man. This is the scoring era, and it shows. It shows. I'm gonna hold off. I'm talking about it. Kyrie Irving has played really well this year. And I kind of expected him to play well. I did not. I'll say this. I was wrong. I thought that he wouldn't make it to. I thought he'd be traded by trade deadline. I thought KD probably be traded by trade deadline because just how loud their offseason was. But Kyrie has played great this year. Kyrie has played like the Kyrie we know him to be. So the question is, what happens now? Does Brooklyn re-sign him? Does he stay with Brooklyn? Like, I think a lot. Yes, Kyrie can be difficult. Yes, anybody can be difficult. Have you ever been in a relationship? It's difficult. But through all the noise, what is that person? And Kyrie can say the earth is flat. Kyrie can have his opinions about the vaccine, have his opinions. It's his opinions. But Kyrie is still an exceptional basketball player. And he still is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, handler of the basketball we have ever seen. I think Kyrie Irving has played himself into another contract with Brooklyn. But it also goes back to I still don't think, even with him playing as good as he is in KD, I just don't think there's enough around him. Even though, shouts out to Nick Claxton, he's played a lot better than I thought. And shouts out to the role players, Seth Curry and Joe Hayden, or Joe Harris. Why did I say Joe Hayden? Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal. They've played great. I just don't think when you go up against some of the best teams, like, they have enough to win a championship. I do think that, seeing how good Kyrie's played and KD and seeing, before KD went down, how good they were, I think that they're good enough to make an NBA Finals. But I think it's going to be tough. But I am interested to see where Kyrie go, what happens to Kyrie at the end of this year, because he's been playing, he's been hooping, he's just been balling. So. Oh, and shouts out to the Australian Open. Before we go, shouts out to Arena Sablenka. I know I messed your name up, my G. Shouts out to you. I mean, you won the U.S. Open. You Sabalenka. I know I messed your name up, but shouts out to you, and of course, shouts out to Novak Djokovic for winning yet another Australian Open. You guys are great. Shouts out to you guys. And there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. So get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. You will not regret it. Also, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.